Good morning and welcome to Transforming Soul Work. No, well, it is actually soul work, but transforming soul walks. Gosh, I'm still very tired. I realize you will only see me tired, puffy under my eyes, um, just awake, no makeup, no nothing, naked real me. That's all you see all the time. Oh boy, oh boy. And it's so funny. Every time I post these videos, I don't know how to create thumbnail, sort of a still picture over my videos. So you get the image from the video, and and YouTube doesn't take the first when I start. It just picks an image or a second from the video as the thumbnail, and I always look so crazy. My eyes look like little teeny tiny eyes, and my face, I make some weird face, and oh my god. Well, it's not for someone who would care a lot about their appearance. I used to be very scared of walking out without makeup and all that shit when I was young. Now, that's what I do almost every day. Um, so that's me. You get the real me. Anyway, good morning. Here we are. Um, I wanted to tell you about this beautiful meeting I had with this young girl, young woman. I guess she was in her really early 20s, on the train this spring. I was on my way up to the university I went to when I studied neuropsychology, and and I've done, you know, when you premenopause, when you're going through that, you do some weird, crazy shit. Your brain is not working and functioning in a normal way. So when I had booked my tickets, I wanted to have a nice seat where it was quiet and I was all by myself, and so I could do some work, because I do my best work when I'm on a train. And for some reason, I've booked the wrong day, so I had to rebook my ticket. And that train, the new train, was almost full, and I couldn't get the same seats. So I had to take whatever was, available to me. And I was very upset about it. I was so irritated. And the day before I was going, and yeah, I was really irritated and frustrated and angry and, all that. And, but then in the morning, you have a choice. And that's something that I've learned over the years. When I started this 2010, all these changes, slowly I learned how to control that more and more. So when I'm in a negative spiral or acting in a negative way, I have it's easier for me today to just sort of stop myself for a second and choose, do I want to continue? Oh my God, the sun is beautiful. Do I want to continue being angry, frustrated, irritated? Do I want to stay in that feeling? Or do I want to change? Do I want to change into another feeling? And I think when you ask yourself, you don't want to stay in that negative spiral. It doesn't feed you anything positive. And sometimes you do. Sometimes you just want to stay in it a little bit more. That's fine. But we do get the consequences from whatever feeling we choose. And I didn't want to feel that way. So one feeling that is easier to change to than, oh, I'm going to be happy, I'm going to be smiling. When you change the channel to be curious, then it's so much easier to change, because with curiosity comes adventure, the unknown, but the exciting unknown. So I decided to change to curiosity and asking myself, all right, there's a meaning to why I'm supposed to be on this train. There's a reason why I'm supposed to be in this seat that I was given. So I'm probably supposed to meet someone, someone important, someone that I'm supposed to meet for a certain reason, for a special reason. So suddenly, from being irritated and angry, I was looking forward to it. I was excited. Like, who am I supposed to meet? So I got on the train, and for every stop we made, I was excited. It's like, who is going to get on this train that's going to sit next to me or right in front of me? Who am I supposed to meet? And every station, and no one got on. I was sitting all by myself, and now I was almost getting disappointed that I was sitting by myself. I was working, but no one got on that was supposed to sit next to me. So when I was sort of halfway, I sort of like, all right, maybe I wasn't supposed to meet someone. Maybe the universe wanted to tell me, see, I got you your own seat. I gave you the quietness. I gave you whatever you thought you couldn't get if you weren't in your old seat that you booked. So, but then we come to this station, and this young woman gets on, and she sits down, and I just know, here she is. And I remember how everybody else reacted, because she was all bloody. She had a lot of blood on her clothes, on her arms, and you could tell the whole aura around her was trauma. And I was sort of having a conversation with my inner self and waited, because the time that was supposed to come would come by itself. I didn't have to force. You never have to force anything. It will reveal itself when it's time. And suddenly she gets a phone call, or she calls someone else. I don't remember now. It's a few months ago. And she's trying to talk quietly because she's embarrassed. She's embarrassed the way she looks, and she starts telling this person what had happened to her. And my heart just broke and went out to her. And the way she was talking about herself and about the situation, I felt that she needs to know that it's not her fault. And she needs to know why she did what she did. So I started writing a letter while she's talking to whoever she's talking to. And I had decided that I was going to give her this letter when I reached my destination. And but then when she stops talking on the phone, and she's trying to, the bandage that she has on her arm is falling off, and she's trying to fix it. And she's embarrassed about it. And then I couldn't be quiet, and I said, excuse me, so I'm sorry. I overheard your phone call. I'm sorry. I just want to tell you that um, it's not your fault. You don't have to feel ashamed about anything. And she starts crying, and she says, but you don't know what happened, what I did. And then she starts telling me the story. And this little girl, no, well, I saw the little girl in her. She was in her early 20s now, but she was still a little girl. And the way she was brought up, I mean, I can't understand how parents and adults can treat kids this way or being the way they are. It's because of their traumas, of course, but she was brought up in a family with both addictions, abuse, all kinds of abuse. I mean, all kinds of abuse that we've ever heard of. Du är så duktig. And the way for her to cope growing up was to inflict pain to her body. It released the anxiety that she was growing up with, and she started self-harming already at the age of 7 or 8 years old, and her mother were doing drugs with her already at the age of 10, because her mom was lonely, and so she became a drug addict already before she became a teenager. And but at the same time, she had to go to work and earn money because her mother wouldn't. And she sort of told me, but didn't really tell me. But I sort of understood that her mother was selling her, and she didn't just do prostitution. But when she became a teenager, she tried to find other ways to get money into the house and work, both legal and illegal. So she was sort of taking care of her mom, supporting her in her addiction. And while she was being abused and growing up in this environment, well, I don't have to tell you what it will do to a child. And so her way to cope, her way to be able to cope, that's the word, to cope, was to numb herself and to harm herself. And but then a few years back, when she was 17 or 18, she just decided, or if she was even younger, I don't know, but she just decided that this was not a life she wanted anymore. She wanted to have a good life. She wanted to change. And so she herself did this work. I can also tell you that she told me that she's had a lot of psychiatrists. She's had, one point, I think she was living as a foster child with a couple that also abused her. And but when she got older, she wanted to change her life. She wanted to have the life she's always dreamt for herself. And she herself uh, put her through rehab. And after rehab, she just picked up her stuff, which wasn't much, and left because she knew that she couldn't tell her mom that she had to leave, that she wanted to create a new life for herself. She knew that she would never be able to leave, so she just left. She just, without saying anything, and she met this wonderful family when she met her boyfriend, and they sort of took her in, and she moved far, 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 far away from her biological family without saying anything. But her family, well, she left a note that she wasn't coming back. But for some reason, they found her, and the mother and her brother, her uncle, and some other family members, they drove all the way to where she lived now and threatened her, threatened the family, threatened to burn down the house, threatened to kill her dogs. And if I'm not mistaken, they actually did something with fire because there was a trial and she reported them, and so they felt that she had betrayed them, and then also betrayed them by being honest with the cops. And now they were sentenced to something. I don't know if they got a few months in prison or whatever, but they were sentenced for what they did. And she continued her life, and then her grandmother died. And her grandmother was the only one that was actually kind to her, and where she felt love, support, trust. And she was debating with herself whether she was going to go to the funeral or not, because that meant that she was forced to meet her family again. But she felt that it was so important to say goodbye to her grandmother, so she went. And I think you think what I think. Why didn't she bring her boyfriend as support? But sometimes when you're in that chaos, you don't really think straight. So they didn't think about it. And so she left by herself to go to this funeral. And when she showed up at this funeral, hell broke loose. They were all screaming at her, accusing her, and they actually started to beat her. So the police had to come to the funeral. And she went to an old friend's house, and she was devastated. And all that trauma, that sort of trauma cycle, trauma chaos that she grew up with, that she was used to, just overwhelmed her. And she went to whatever gave her comfort and whatever made her cope back in the day into this time, this reality, because that's what you do. You go directly to your own old behaviors, your old coping mechanisms that you used to when you end up in a situation like this. And she started cutting herself. There was something about a drug she was taking. I don't know the name of it, but it helps you to stay sort of sober if you've been an addict, drug addict. But combining that with alcohol is actually deadly. And that's what happened to her after she cut herself. And she actually got, she was drinking a lot. And suddenly her heart, her body couldn't take it. And she was suddenly dying. And her friends had to call the ambulance. And she actually, she actually died. They had to do CPR on her to bring her back. And then they rushed her to the hospital, and she had been in the hospital and just been released from the hospital when I met her after all this trauma. She was on her way back home to her boyfriend and his family. And oh, my heart. And she was feeling so much guilt and shame. And I just told her, I took her hand, I said, listen, you did what you were used to. This was the only way you knew how to calm yourself when you were a kid. This was the only way for your soul to cope. So of course you would go to that. It would be strange if you didn't. She's only been on this sober path for a few years. She doesn't have the strength. She doesn't have the pattern, the culture of this new life she's living. And it's going to take some time before she gets comfortable. And when it gets easier for her to grab these tools that she's learning right now. And she doesn't really have all the tools just yet. So I told her, there's no shame in this. There's no guilt in this. You've been exposed to the worst trauma ever. And heck, I mean, you would be unhuman if you wouldn't go back to your old coping strategies. And we talked. I told her a little bit about my life and how I've learned to cope and how I've changed my coping mechanisms. And I could see what a beautiful soul she was. This young woman, the strength she has and the spirit she has. My God, I mean, this girl, she can be whatever she wants. She will change people's lives. And I hope she will continue and understand that these are just old patterns, echoes from her past, and that she's building something new now. And she can't be so hard on herself. My God, that childhood is almost out of a movie. It's not real, but it is real. And she's not the only one, unfortunately. It's so freaking sad. But when we reached our destination, she gave me a hug, and it was so beautiful. And she said, "You know what? I've seen so many psychiatrists and therapists growing up. No one has ever. I've never felt helped. I've never felt like I've understood me, why I'm doing things and how things works until now." We had about maybe 2.5, 3 hours, something like that, and together on the train. She said, "I learned more, and I feel more whole and understanding of who I am after these hours with you than I've ever felt over the years." So that was a beautiful testimony, and that was beautiful for me, because that was the reason. That was the reason why I was supposed to be on this train, sitting in that seat, because I was meant to meet her. I was meant to give her comfort. I was meant to give her love. I was meant to show her that she's beautiful and that she should not walk with any shame for what had happened that weekend. Or I was meant to be there to strengthen her to continue the path that she was on, and standing strong in herself and finding her voice, and to heal. So sometimes when you're in a situation and life changes on you really fast, and you get upset, you get angry, you get frustrated, stop for a second and shift the channel to curiosity and ask yourself, who am I supposed to meet? Who am I supposed to interact with? What is the universe plan? Or if you use God, what is God's plan? So when you shift that focus to curiosity, well, then life gets really fun, I have to say. And we're supposed to be lights in other people's life. And we're supposed to meet people to be a light in ours as well, to show us something about ourselves, and to help us heal, to help us finding those tools that we need. So, who are you supposed to meet? You know, you can even ask yourself that in any day. When you wake up every morning, and you can ask yourself that, who am I supposed to meet today? And shift to that curiosity right away. Then every day will become an adventure. So, all right, I am home now. Oh, that sun. I'm a sun worshiper. I love the sun. I'm going to leave you with this. And I'm going to wish you a beautiful day. And if you're listening to this, and if you decide today you're going to turn that channel on and ask yourself, who am I supposed to meet today? Please write who you were supposed to meet. Who did you meet today where you felt that this was meant to be? This is one of the reasons why I woke up today. You can share that with me either below or send me a message, or yeah, it would be fun to know. All right, guys, have a wonderful day. Kisses and hugs. Puss och kram. Bye bye.